I guess you wonder where I've been. I searched to find the love within. I came back to let you know. Got a thing for you, and I can't let it go. Happy Friday, everybody. How are you all doing? Hey, it is Mother's Day weekend. I am so happy to see all of you. Welcome to the Autopsy of Her Healing, Evolving Resiliency. I am your host, Iris Denise Owens, and on the line with me is my beautiful sister and co-host. Good morning, honey bunny. How are you?
Good morning, honey bunny. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am doing
That's
great.
good.
I am excited, elated. I'm all those things. And so I am ready to get started, jump in. Again, it's Mother's Day weekend, guys. And of course, I always say, Mother's Day is probably bigger than Christmas. What do you think? I think
It
Mother's
is.
Day is bigger than Christmas. I think it is the one holiday that if you don't get your mother or acknowledge your mother or the mothers in your life, you're going to catch it. You're going to
Yeah.
catch
Oh
it
yeah,
because
man.
they going to call you up and be like, I'm sorry, wait, did you forget?
A
And the
phone call,
and the and
something
the
like
and the worst thing is that if they have to call you and then you're like, oh, that just doesn't go well. So the reason why I opened this show today singing that song, if you all are not familiar with it, is called "What You Won't Do for Love."
hmm
And we are talking about as mothers, right? And whether you have birthed children, you've adopted children, you've nurtured children, you've taken children in under your wings and nurtured, you are a mother, right?
That's right.
We mother every day, even to people who we do not know, to children we do not know, to individuals we do not know. And so the topic or saying what you won't do for love is really strong when you think about motherhood. And
hmm
the fact that Sunday is Mother's Day, and of course, want to shout out to all who, if your mom is no longer with us in
Yep.
an earthly body, right? Hey, feel your loss, feel you're missing your mom, and completely cannot say I understand because I still
Yeah,
have
that's
my
what.
mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never want to say I understand that because I don't, because I've not experienced that. But just want to say, hey, you are loved, your mom loved you. And so I hope that you do something great in honor of your mom or something that will bring you and uplift you. I hope you will not spend a day sad. But if you
hmm
do, still we understand. So
Yeah.
back to what you won't do for love as a mother.
Mhm. What would you do for love?
Yeah. What wouldn't you do? What you would do? I think as a mother, I remember after I became a mom, I remember introducing myself to people, especially with my last child, my daughter. I was older then. And I just always said, I just don't have time for people for the nonsense of children bullying or parents, I just don't have time for that kind of foolishness. And I
hmm
remember I would meet parents and I would, meet kids or whatever, and I would shake their hands. I would literally put my hands out, shake their hands, and I would look them in the eyes. And I would say, just want you to make sure, like, hi, I'm Iris Owens. And if anything happens between, me, you and my daughter, whether it was an adult or a child, I want you to look me in my eyes because when you see that storm cloud coming, it's me. And they would be like,
Really? Okay.
I was,
Really?
yes, because I was just like, I just felt like, listen, I don't have time for the foolishness. Like, kids can be very, very mean.
hmm
And I literally had a kid when my daughter was, I think she was a freshman in high school or she was on her way to high school. And my kids were out with some friends. And one of my daughter's friends happened to be in a same sex relationship. And another young man who was not even in school with them, he was the brother of someone that they were in school with, got into a whole fight with the girls and threw a condom. And I mean, he was just, and so I went to talk to this young man, and literally this young man was like, bye, bitch. I lost it. Like I literally followed this child around. The person, he was on the back of a golf cart, and I wasn't gonna hurt him or anything, but I really felt like I needed to talk to this child. Like, first of all, you were bullying someone and you were younger than them. You had no reason to be doing that. But again, as a mother, I just felt like I'm supposed to protect my child. I needed to protect my child. And that young man just, I mean, his words, his actions were so disrespectful and so harmful. So yes, I would be that mom who'd be like, hi, how are you? Glad to meet you. You know, if anything happens to my child while in your care, please know it will be me. When you see that storm, that dust cloud coming, it's me. Because now I need to know what has happened and why. But
well, yeah, I didn't have to, like, you couldn't, like, I never had to have the in care conversation because basically my children was never in anybody else's care. You know how I was like that.
Understood.
And,
Understood.
yes, and, yeah. So I was like, no, like, can we spend the night? So no, like, why? Don't even ask me that question because that's never gonna happen because I don't know what's going on over there. I never forget when Savion was in, he was still in kindergarten, and I would come in, you had to sign all these papers. You had to like go through all these codes, which is nice. I mean, we weren't even having the shootings like we're having them now, but you just couldn't get into the school.
Exactly.
And one day, the director said to me, "Oh, I need to speak to you, Mrs. Davenport." I'm like, "Okay." And she said, "Oh no, Savion, certain little girl said that he was gonna come back and kill her with a gun." I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound like Savion, but I've never been one to be like, oh, not my child. Because when children are in school around their peers, they act a little different sometimes.
They do.
And when she was telling me this, another mother came in, and I did say that. I said, "Oh, it sounds like Savion." So the other mother said, "Oh no, that's my son. Sounds like my son." So right away, because it was a little girl, no, she was a Caucasian little girl. So like now all the black boys look alike. And so it was her son because she said, oh, he's fascinated with guns because his father's a cop and all this kind of stuff. And the Savion little boy, they were friendly, And I said to Savion, you will never go over there for play date ever, ever. You know what I mean? That's all you needed to say to me. I do feel that sometimes if you are a parent and you really are in tune and listening, not all the time, but certain things that have happened to children when they're at other people's houses in references to guns and stuff, you would have thought twice about maybe that child going over there because you would have heard them, they had a gun or they fascinated with guns or, but even if a kid, like that's his best friend, they fascinated with guns, I would have a big conversation with the parent, like, okay, they're fascinated with guns, like the gun's locked up, what's going on, how does that, you would have to really sit down with them because they're children. You know what I mean? They see things on TV. These are actors. These people aren't really dead. They get up, So when they're young, you don't know how they're intaking of all those kind of things. And I think that people are people, oh, they don't mean that or whatever. You have to listen and pay attention to what's being said. And as much as you know, as much as you can know what's going on in someone's home, because you never know what's going on behind closed doors. What you see out front is not what's going on behind closed doors all the time. And that's what I've always really, really felt. And it's really through conversation. And that's just like a conversation with anybody. You become friends with somebody, friends, and you go on to be lovers and stuff like that. It's through conversation. It's the things that you have in common. And then it's the things that you don't have in common. It's the same way when you think about the people's houses that your kids are going over. I just can't. I know this when my little cousin was at Rutgers. We had this big storm in 2011, and she had to come stay with me. And her roommate came and stayed with me. They stayed with us like 4 days, and her roommate's parents never called me once. You don't know where your daughter is staying.
I've encountered that. My children in the community in which we lived in, I have had my kids always had, birthday parties or sleepovers and whatever. And literally kids would come, I would hear the doorbell ring, and I'm on now, because before your children come, I've called each parent individually to, to have a conversation. And again, this is, focusing like as a mother, things you would do as a mother for the love of your children and also for other people's children and their safety. Like I would call each parent and say, hey, I'm inviting your child to my child's birthday party. It's happening at such and such. It's at our home. Da, 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 da. This is what time we start. This is what time they need to be picked up. And I was always amazed at the number of parents that would roll up to the door. And by the time I would get downstairs, like the door would have rung, and I get downstairs, the child is standing on my door or on my porch, and the parent has taken off. And I think, my thing is, like you just said, I did allow my children to spend nights, but not at everyone's home. I didn't grow up being able to spend a night at everyone's home. Being an only child, it was always, my mother, was always more comfortable with my people, people coming to spend a night with me, because of course, being an only child, and then if I'm going to someone else's home who has multiple brothers and sisters, my mother was just like, absolutely not. And so in that vein, I think it's mothering is not easy. Right. And of course, for our mothers, before we were mothers, we would always say, you look at your parents, you look at your mother, particularly because typically it was mom who was disciplinary in the home. Sometimes it was dad, but most times it's mom. Right. Sure. And even that is a protection of mom, because your mother, especially if you were a female, would be like, oh no, I'm not gonna have daddy beating on you. No. Right. Even if she was going to discipline you, she wasn't going to let dad do that part. Like dad could do the strong talking, right? Dad could even lay down the punishment and the laws, but not so much that dad was going to be the one who was going to physically put hands on you. And that's a whole nother topic about whether or not that's a good thing, a bad thing, whatever, right? With regards to physical discipline. But I just think, as a mom, and it's funny because I'm drinking this, my tea this morning from this cup that my daughter gave me. And my cup says, you're never too old to need your mom.
Oh my God, so true.
You're never too old to need your mom. And I realized that, the older I get, I think we all go through a phase in our lives where we would tell our mom, I can't wait to have my own kids. I can't wait to not live in here anymore. Because when I have kids, I'm never going to do that to my kids. I'm never going to tell my kids they can't do this, that, and the other. And then the day comes where you hear your mother's exact words, but they come out of your mouth. Your mother is nowhere in the picture. Right? And then you're thinking, oh my God, like, what? I'm becoming my mom. But only realizing that the things that our parents, our mothers, though, teaches us is so profound. And that can be positive and negative. So I always feel like, mothers are saints in the world. Mothers are saints. And unfortunately, sometimes all mothers are not saints. So I'm not beating up on a mother. I hear what I'm saying. I'm a mother. I have a mother. But I'm saying sometimes we don't get the mother who is the nurturing mother.
Yeah, because all mothers aren't nurturing.
And all mothers and all humans aren't nurturing, right?
Exactly. Some mothers will tell you, I shouldn't have been a mother. You know what I mean? That wasn't my thing, Right. And then some of them learn after the first child, and some of them have 10 and still didn't realize, and then everybody else
never learn. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I was saying for me, with my whole situation with how I came to be, I was, I definitely never had that conversation with my mother. Like when we have children, I wasn't in any rush, as you know, but I just knew that for me, I just wanted to do something different than, with my, especially with my biological mother. She definitely did the best that she could, with all the children. But I guess, just being abandoned as an infant, and and then being raised by my godmother who eventually adopted me. It took a lot out of me. So just because of that alone, I was very, when it came to my children, not to mention just for preparation of being ready to have children, going to therapy and, doing everything I needed to do to be able to be the best parent that I could be, you know. And just, everybody was like, oh, you're so much older, you're gonna give them everything. I didn't give them parties and all that stuff. I didn't, but I was just very present at all times, and it was all because I think that made me a better person just in general, because those things that don't kill you just make you better and make you stronger, and it did. Love my mom. My mom, raised me. She's passed in 2013, and I can honestly say it's been a big loss to me, because especially when, she took me when nobody else wanted me. I felt away. So, it was like a big loss. My biological mother's here, and we have a relationship, but it's not like a mother and daughter relationship. You know, it's a relationship. I mean, because she raised the rest of my 7 siblings, and I'm very close to my siblings. So, and my mom, because she just has her own stuff. You know what I mean? And I think that I would definitely say to anyone who's thinking about becoming a parent, definitely get yourself together. I know I hear this verbiage, I think we spoke about this before, that people are so ready to have children, but not ready to have a committed relationship with someone, whatever that looks like to you. For me, it's marriage. But, because God forbid, you can always get divorced if that doesn't work out. You really can never divorce your children.
Can't divorce your
Even when
children.
you can't, even when you abandon your children
Yeah.
because those relationships don't work for you anymore, you're never really divorced from, because that child always yearns for you. And
Right.
at the end of the day, no matter how bad you treated that child, they would rather be with you than be where they're treated well. And 9 times out of 10,
Yes.
you know.
It's
So
funny it's funny you say that, Steph, because I always said, I never realized that. Of course, I spent, several years in social services, and it wasn't until I was a part of, a child being separated from their parent and having to be removed from a home, that I realized that instinct of a mother and a child, that, as you just stated, regardless of how bad they're being treated or have been treated or neglected, your mother is your first love. Even if they aren't giving you love, that is the first person you learn love or not love, or what that looks like in your world. And so even when someone comes, and that's why I always say, understanding that, yes, many children should be removed from a home. And I say that, I don't say that lightheartedly, because that's a real separation from your parents, from your family unit, is hard. It's very hard. But sometimes it's necessary, because your life and your well-being, of a child is in danger. And so I think when we look at that, when we see a mother who's struggling, and that's why I said, mothers are not saints. Mothers are human beings, and mothers
yes,
have their
absolutely.
own weight. Mothers
Yes.
have their own trauma. Mothers have their own stuff that they have never, ever, ever talked about. Things that
Yeah.
happen in their life,
And
because
exactly. We know they didn't talk about it, they never dealt with it. But they,
exactly. And
but
so
they think that, but you
sometimes,
want love. You want, like, I know I have family members, you can have these babies, so I can have love. That baby loves on you for like maybe a year.
yeah, and
After
then
that, the
that
baby wants
baby
to go
is
out and
on its
explore.
own,
Yeah,
exploring its
yeah,
world.
yeah.
Yes.
Other people, they rather be in somebody. I mean, it's like you have to love yourself. You really, really do. And then you could be able to pour the love, you know what I mean? Because you do love your children more than they love you, you know, for them to pour the love back into you, But it's like, I think that we do ourselves a very disservice as females when we look to love from a child, you know, that's why we're having this child, or having a keep the relationship together baby. I have a fix the marriage baby, all these things. A baby shouldn't have to be born in this world with a job.
With that, right, with that kind of responsibility. And it's
No,
interesting that when children, a lot of times when parents depart from one another, right, how children sometimes feel like, oh, was it my fault? Is it my fault?
Yeah.
Like, if I hadn't come along, would it have been different? And so I think one of the things we sometimes need to offer to mothers is so much grace.
Yes.
And it's hard sometimes because, we see these headlines that come, and we see mothers who left the children in the car. Well, maybe they left the child in the car because they were trying to get this job. Different than the mother who left her child and went out to get high. But is it really? Because the bottom line is that mother is dealing with something that's the only way she knows how to deal with it. Right. I mean, there was a story a couple of months, I think it was back last year here in Atlanta. And this family had come here. I think there was a storm. And so a lot of people had come to Atlanta. And this family, they had, I think it was 4 daughters, and one of the daughters had epilepsy. And unfortunately, this child woke up in an epileptic episode and walked out of the motel room. It wasn't a hotel, out of the motel room, walked into traffic and was hit by a car. And and they were like, the parents were arrested, but the mother and the father were out, and she was doing, what do you call it? Uber Eats. Now, I never heard any more about this story. Don't know what happened to the parents. But of course, it was, parents left these children, mother left these. And so your first knee-jerk reaction is, why would you leave your kids? Why would you do that? Right? But from a perspective, I thought about it and I said, so they came here, they were displaced. They're staying in this hotel. They probably came here, they didn't have any money. They didn't know anyone here. So the rationale behind that was that, at least I hope, mom says, okay, I can do Uber Eats. We got to pay for this hotel room, because now you in one of these week to week or day by day, you have to pay for that every day, because if you don't, they put you out. So in my head, I'm saying, the mother said, let me go out here and do this because I have the ability to do this since I'm licensed to do this, right? And the dad probably said, well, I will go with you to protect you, because this is unknown territory. You don't know anybody here. We don't know this area. And in their minds, they probably thought the kids were asleep, because it was late. The kids were asleep. And they figured the kids would not wake up. They would go do this quick run and they come back. Now, I hope that was the story. But my whole point to that is that sometimes when we see something happen that a mother has done, our first initiative is to go to the negative, because we see that as, how could you be so neglectful? How could you do that to your children? How could you? I remember once Rhonda was getting out the tub, fell and bust his eye open. I was not neglect. I was standing right there, but he slipped and fell and bust his eye. So my point is that as mothers, sometimes we make a decision, or we didn't make a decision. Not meaning not to, but do you understand what I'm saying? We make a decision, but we really didn't make a decision, because I was getting ready to put him in the tub. He was splashing around. He got into, and then he slipped and fell. I felt horrible, but I didn't intentionally do that to my child. I think mothers don't get that kind of grace.
Yeah, you need that kind of grace. It happens. Literally, Savion, it was like the perfect lineup was so weird. Savion came out of his room one day, and our banisters were wood, okay? But his height, how he hit the corner of the banister, literally sliced his eye.
Oh.
And let me tell you, me, my husband, my daughter, we all home, run into an emergency room. Oh, did they have child protective services up
Yes.
there really quickly?
Yes.
Not to
Exactly.
mention, you know what I learned from that was I mean, out of everything that happened, he had to have stitches. We had to get a plastic surgeon to do this. And now that he's grown, maybe he could be 21 next week, 2 weeks.
Yes.
They had to put they put the stitch. So now you can't see unless he closes his eye, but
Right.
I had to have a plastic surgeon do it. But the funny thing that I remember about that day, when I got him dressed, and he was like maybe 3, 4, like that. I just put something old on him. You know, I don't know. We weren't really leaving the house that day. And when we got, and even my husband said at the time, he was like, we looked all dressed up and he looked like a bum, you know,
Mm,
compared to how we would dress. I'm
right.
like, you make me look good every day. Like y'all look the same because they looked at us, I'm sure. You know what I
Right.
mean? This woman came over there and they just started asking questions. You know what I
Right.
mean? And things do happen. Literally, one day, my husband came home. Savannah got on her father's lap. And, you know, she was just sitting there. She was 2, 3, and he was drinking a glass of water out of a water goblet. He drank the water and he was just holding the glass in his hand. She did like this, slashed her forehead.
Your kids have some tender skin, baby.
Yes,
they
it was
just
exactly. It was
they have
crazy.
that
I
they
mean,
have
that was
that
like,
soft
look,
skin. They bruise
they
easily. No,
do.
listen.
And it was, I mean, but it was the way her head hit the glass, cracked
Right.
the glass, sliced her forehead.
Oh
You
my
know, one of
gosh,
those
that's
just freaky
crazy.
things. Yeah,
Yes.
and you know, head wounds bleed a lot.
Oh
But, you
yes.
know, we had to rush her to emergency room.
You have
But
to go
things
through that process
happen.
all over again. Yeah.
But your energy, like, I think that when you know that you're doing the right thing, you bring a whole different type
Correct.
of energy to that situation. You know, when you like, and they could, I mean, that's what these people are taught to interrogate you to see what's kind of going on with the
Right.
situation. You know what I mean? Because things do happen. I was taking Savion to a party one day. Randy had to take Savannah somewhere. And I was taking him somewhere. You know, sometimes that you go. And Savion like, I'm going to the car. Literally, I was walking behind him. The car was in the drive, in the garage. And as I'm going behind him, he goes into the garage. I went to grab something. I'm coming. He comes back in, and blood is just all over him. He had on white, and everything was just covered in blood. I'm like, Savior, what happened? I'm like, okay, and I'm good, like in a crisis. Let me get a towel and see where the blood is coming from. But I said the gash was like that little, but it was in his head. They had room to
Oh,
bleed a
he
lot.
hit his head.
He hit his head, probably getting in the car. So I don't know where he hit his head at, but he hit his head. And I had to I took him to the emergency room and
Yes.
stitched him up. And then we left. I still took him to the party because it wasn't really a big deal.
Right.
But my husband's calling me, what happened? All this blood. 'Cause I didn't get a chance to get the
Right.
blood cleaned up. I changed his clothes, whatever. It was funny.
Yeah,
Things
you had to
happen,
put
though.
him, definitely put him on a new outfit because you couldn't take him to the hospital again with like, why y'all all dressed up and he all bloody? What's going on here?
But
I just
you have to
think,
guide with your children.
as parents, as mothers, because I will say most times the nurturing, the caring of our children falls on us. I also want us to
Exactly.
realize that there are times that we as mothers, we wear this cape. We wear this cape and we wear this shield. And that cape and that shield sometimes gets us or puts us in situations that we don't know what to do with it, right? I.e., we get into this thing, we have this cape that we can do anything. And we think this
Yes,
shield makes
I'm
us
your
bulletproof.
superwoman.
I'm
Right.
super right. I put
I
that
am not
S on
your
my
superwoman.
chest. I put
Exactly.
that S on my chest for I'm super mom. I can do
Exactly.
it all. I can handle it all. I can take care of it all. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. And
For sure.
also, if you're anything like me, I never wanted my children to see me in weakness.
Mhm.
Never, ever wanted to let my children see me in weakness, i.e., meaning I don't care how bad stuff is going. I'm not crying in front of my children. I'm not breaking down in front of my children because for me, it was, I am super mom. I am your protection from the world. And so if you see me break down, then you're going to definitely fall apart and be in fear and be. I realized though that, and I've talked about this before, like, I've been a single mom. And I realized when it was just Rhonda and I remember our mornings, like, even though we would have, I've ironed the uniform the night before, lunch is packed, book bags at the door. It always seemed as though like there was something that had me running around like a chicken with his head cut off, right? And this one morning, Rhonda was dressed, his uniform on, he's sitting on the stairs, and he's sitting on the stairs like this, like watching me.
They love sitting on the stairs too.
Right, watching me go back and forth, right? And so I'm like, move, move, move. And my son goes, and at the time, Rhonda was probably like 5. He probably was about 5, 4 or 5. And my son says, oh my God, let me move out the way because here comes the crazy lady.
That sounds like Rhonda.
And so I don't know about y'all, but I was highly offended and highly feeling disrespected and ready to like rip my son's head off. But
all I do for you, that's all you can say.
But in that moment, you know what I realized and what I learned? My son wasn't wrong. I was running around morning after morning, even after the quote unquote prep the night before. He's ready to go. And I'm still like, and why? Because I had already prepped my clothes too. So I don't know what was I running around for? From that moment on, I said to my son, we will never go through mornings where we get up in the morning, we say good morning, we have our breakfast, we're not yelling and screaming at one another. And that's how our lives continue. I never believed in my kids leaving the house with all this yelling and screaming, let's go.
Yeah. You can't do that.
Because you know what? If you are like that, that's the energy that you are setting for your child for the rest of the day. You're setting it for you and you're setting it for them. So my point to that is that this is why we have to realize you got to take that shield off sometimes.
Yeah.
Now take that supermom shield off. You need to take that cape, put that thing in the washing machine, soak it in some cold water and some woodlight. Because it needs to rest the same way we need to rest.
That's true. That's true.
We have to learn that we cannot be all things to everybody all the time. The same way it said, you can have everything, but you can't have it all at the same time.
Exactly. It's so true. It's so true. It's like one morning I was taking Savion to school, and this one Mr. Van going to 2 different schools. And I was like, Ray, he said, oh, you're not taking me to school looking like that. See? I was like, oh, really? Because he was used to me being all dressed up. And I don't know, I must have just threw something wrong this day. Oh, that's not my mother. It was like one of those kind of things.
Right.
I was like, excuse me, to the point, let me go throw some heels on, because that's how I did take him to school.
Right.
And it was so, he was like, you're not taking me to school. I was like shocked when he said that to me, But they
remember, they're watching. They're always watching. They're always watching.
They don't miss a thing.
And more importantly, they're always listening. Even though when we think like they're not listening, they're always listening.
Always listening.
I want you all to be aware too, for those who are, in your home environment or whatever environment you are raising your children in, especially your young children, as a mom, right? I always did my best to not argue in front of my children, but that didn't always happen.
Even when you think they're sleeping.
Yes.
Because they are not sleeping, they are listening.
Because when children are nonverbal, they're still traumatized by the anger and the trauma and the yelling and the screaming and the fight that they hear. Right. They're hearing that energy. And so sometimes, when all of a sudden you have a child who always seems to be nervous or who's always on edge, or you're like, what's wrong? And they're like, they're feeding off that energy.
They always want to argue all the time and debate you all the time. Yeah.
Right. It's energy. And so So I'm saying, as moms, let's focus on the positive of what we do or what we think we're supposed to do. Because sometimes maybe that's not for us to do.
Which is true. Well, I think
Sometimes
that
we got to learn that I can't do it all, even for my children.
which is true too. But you have to decide what you have to decide the type of parent or mother that you want to be.
Yes.
You have to really make a decision what type of household you want to run and work toward that. You know what I mean? And then sometimes I think that we judge each other too harshly, but it's all right to ask for help. I don't think
Not
mothers have enough.
sometimes. We judge each other
Yeah,
harshly, period.
we do.
As women
Mothers
and
don't
as
have enough
mothers, we are
support.
worse.
Oh yeah, we do. But we don't have enough support. But you do
Yes.
have to, you cannot, I mean, life is going to take over, don't get me wrong, but you still have to have an idea of what type of mother you want to be, what type of household you're trying to run, for your children. What's more, I mean, like some mothers, like their kids need to be a whole bunch of activities. Maybe some mothers don't feel like that. But
Right.
they want their kids to have more me time, with themselves. So you have to decide that.
Yes. And I think it's important that, to, like you said, it's not necessary that every minute of your child's life is filled with something.
Exactly.
Like just like you need a moment sometime to just sit down and ponder, to do nothingness. Children need that moment too, sometimes, to do nothingness. They don't, their day does not have to be every day, every hour on the hour, something is scheduled. As moms, what we pour into them is what they pour back out. Or sometimes they don't pour it out, it gets stuck. And then you're like, what is going on with my child? Well, whatever is going on with you sometimes becomes reflected from our children.
It's true.
So remember, we're not super moms. We're good moms, and we are striving to be the best moms we can. But remember, we're human too, and we have to take some time to give ourselves some grace, give another mother some grace. If you see a mom who, even though you're saying in your head, why does she have 5 children? Why does she have 5 children? We don't know why she has 5 children. I mean,
But
we
she
know
was
the
one
basic,
that right.
why she has 5 children, right?
She
But
was
the
one
bottom
a lot.
line is, as opposed to why does she have 5 children and she get on my nerves, why don't we say one day, hey,
How can I be of service and help her?
how can I come over? Can I come over and come to your house and, sit with your kids for maybe an hour?
Yeah,
And
give you a little
even if
break.
it means she just go in her back room and take a nap. Oh my God, do you know how important a nap is when you have children?
I'll bring a meal to her. Then maybe she doesn't
Or
have to cook.
bring
Give
a
me
meal, or come
yes.
over and say, help with homework. Just sometimes we need to give each other grace, including ourselves. Or
Yes,
sometimes to
absolutely.
just say to our children, I'm sorry, mommy's not going to be able to do that today.
I know that's right. Yeah.
Mommy is not going to be able to do that today. We're not going to be able to do that today. And you don't have to feel like you're letting your children down, because guess what? Your children see how hard you're working. Your children see how much you strive to do all that you can for them, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes, y'all, we are tired and we keep acting as though we are not tired.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
normally when we get that snappiness with our children. That's when our children see the other side of us, and the kids are going, well, what's wrong with mommy?
Exactly.
They're
Exactly.
like,
But you
I
yeah.
didn't do anything. What's wrong with mommy?
But you have
Mommy's
to give them their
tired.
responsibilities. You got to give them their responsibilities. My kids know how to make their breakfast. They make their lunch. They washed. My son started washing his clothes when he was 5. My daughter at
Yes.
7. They're washing their own clothes, picking their own clothes out. Because I have a girlfriend. She kept picking her daughter's clothes. I said, and she was always so stressed. I said, you got to take some of that stress. Well, I want her to look a certain way. Let them figure it out. Let them start becoming their own person. Let them pick out their
Absolutely.
own clothes. That's like less on you. You gotta go pick out the clothes and do this. I buy all the stuff they want for their lunch. They make their sandwiches. They do
Right.
this. They want oatmeal for breakfast. I bought them different kind of oatmeal. They make their oatmeal. They knew how to do those kind of things because it's just a lot. It
It's a
is a
lot.
lot. And as the more older they got, the more responsibility I gave them. you know.
Do you
And that's
guys remember? I'm gonna put this question out here for those of you who are tuning in and listening in. Do you all remember your Saturday mornings as a kid? So I'm gonna share mine. My Saturday mornings were, I'm getting up. Now, sometimes, no, not sometimes. I would get up. I'm going to get that bowl. I'm going to eat my cereal. I'm going to turn my TV on and I'm going to watch cartoons until my mommy comes out. I knew Saturday was, if mommy is not up yet, I'm having cereal and I'm watching TV. And that's what I'm doing.
exactly, don't bother her. Give her a break.
I'm not bothering mommy. My Saturday mornings was mommy's sacred, right? That was her sacred day. Let mommy do, because now when mommy gets up, we're going to clean up. We're going to finish watching cartoons. And then we're going to go hang out for the day. We're going somewhere. We're getting out this house on Saturday, right? It's important for your children to be able, like Steph just said, to be able to say, okay, Saturday, hey, get up. Even if it means you leave, you put the cereal in the bowl for them. I used to do that for my kids when they were young. I would pour the milk in a container, enough milk for them to have on the cereal. You put the bowl in the cereal, cereal in the bowl. You put the spoon, you put so this way they're not having to climb up or anything or risk hurting themselves. Guess what? They go get their cereal, they go back and they sit down and watch TV. They good.
They good. They good.
They're good.
And a little table, like you know how they have their own little table.
The little TV, or the little, the little, right. We had the little TV, dinner TV tables.
We had the table that they ate all their meals at this table. It was a kids, it was a table. That's where they sat because it's a little person for a little person. So you know they couldn't fall off the chair. They didn't have to climb on anything. Correct. And that's how they and then they put the TV. My kids weren't allowed to watch TV during the week. So on the weekends, they would sleep in the guest room. They call it grandma's room because it'd be a room my mother would come. She would stay in that room. Yes. We stayed in grandma's room so they could be able to watch TV because they didn't have TVs in their bedroom, and they didn't want to come down to the family room. Not a problem, but you have to get them into a routine, and it's a routine that works for you, for everybody, right? Because when you're in a household with other people, it has to be, you all have to be on the same page, so you can have peace. Right. So that everybody can be at peace. Exactly. And teaching your children how to become self-reliant. Exactly. Right? I.e., not try, because sometimes as parents, as moms, we do this thing. I taught you how to do it this way. This is the way I taught you how I want you to do it, right? But then you're not doing it the way I want you to do it. So what do? We go and we take it over. Yeah, no. Keep taking it over. And then it comes to a point where you realize one day you go, why am I putting the garbage out? Because every time they go to put the garbage out, you're like, you didn't tie the bag well enough. You didn't put the back in the garbage can right. Guess what? Yeah, you can't give somebody something to do, then micromanage. Yes. With our kids, you gotta give them the task. Yeah, they'll get better. When they have done it well, you say, oh, that was great. And you also can't be like, picky Nelly that you're gonna critique it to the point where they're like, you don't want to do it. That's with anything, any type of relationship. You pick on that's us as adults. If you keep riding me about something I've done, I'm gonna keep be like, okay, I tell you what, you do it yourself then. Hello, that's it. You know what I mean? No. That's not how you do things. But you have to let them. That's how they learn. Clean their rooms, make their bed. You keep doing all that stuff for them, they'll never learn how to do it for themselves. Right. And you have to have a routine for them. Routines are very important. Yes. Well, I think they say, I read the study years ago, a routine is very important for children, but if a routine means them not being with you, they're rather for them to be with you than not be with you. It's kind of like what type of job. If you, say you're on Broadway every night, you're an actress and you got to do a show every night, maybe you have to bring the kid with you. You have to sleep in your dressing room while you're on stage. Right. They'd rather have the kid with you than not be with you. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that becomes that kid's routine, there's mother's working, whatever the situation is. But you have to have a routine for your kids. That's very important. If you don't have a routine on a schedule, that's bad. And that's for the moms, like I had, someone in my family, you got pregnant, you weren't married, then you broke up with the guy. Well, I got a date. well, you can't really be dating right now. You got to take care of the child. Put the child on the scale. You know what I mean? Like, oh, how am I going to date? You can't right now. Okay.
Our parents, listen, we were taught once you have children, your life is on hold.
Well,
It's
right.
all
Your
on
life
hold.
belongs to them because they
It's
didn't
on
ask to be born
hold.
here. It
Right.
is. It is.
Because I have seen, I mean, and this has been since since I had sense enough to understand what it means having a child. And I have seen women of every age have children, and then you're still trying to live your life as if you're single, free, without responsibility. And I always said, when I was a divorced single mom, and people would say, "Oh, you're single?" I'm like, "No, I'm divorced with child." Because single means there is nobody looking for me at any point in time during the day. I could do what I want to do. I can go where I want to go. I could sleep as long as I want. I cannot do something if I don't. As a single mom, that is not your narrative. At least it shouldn't be your narrative. Your child is always looking for you.
Yes, they are.
Even when they know that they're safe, they are always looking for you.
I want to find a father for my child. Yeah, that's not how that works.
That's not how that works.
That is not how that works. I mean, you see so many women our age that, from under the guise, mommy has to find a father for you, that now you bring these men into these children. These men are molesting your children, or abusing your children.
Right, just plain old mean and not good to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. It's nothing nice about that. You have to be so careful, because unfortunately, and I take my hats off to men that come in when women have children and just love those children like their own.
Yes.
But you have so many men that don't. They'll pretend that they do, but they will mistreat that child. And once you have their baby, they don't even know your child no more. And you have to be really, really careful.
Or you have the baby and they mistreat that one too. So
that's
which is even more unfortunate. It's just I think we just mothering is, I do believe being a mother is the hardest job you'll ever have, emotionally, physically, because as a mother, I do think mothers, sometimes we get a bad rap, and that's from the people who we're the mothers of.
Oh yeah, of course.
Get a bad rap.
Or our mothers, they don't.
Or when your mother tells you, you don't know what you're doing. Wait, what? I don't know. I don't know if any of you heard, but again, if you come from a certain era, when we had kids, you couldn't leave the house. You were not leaving the house. And that baby was definitely not going out that house without some socks, a hat, a blanket. When I see young people outside, and like not just young, but I see babies outside nowadays, they're newborns, and they got all these people touching and kissing, and they passing this baby around, and people coming
that's a little crazy.
outside. Oh my God, my head goes back to all of the. I remember I was I was protective mama. I was like protective hen over my children. But I'm just saying.
I'll take you out, but you can't. I know we went out for Father's Day. Savion was born May 25th, and it was Father's Day, and I wanted to go out, for Father's Day, take my husband out. And let me tell you, I nursed that baby, put a blanket over him, and put him under the table. Nobody even knew he was there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You couldn't touch him.
I nurse my children in public too, but I'm just saying, I'm just
like, but you have to take, like, some people have the baby so exposed, you know what I'm saying? I had to, sometimes I had to take them, I had to work. I was doing a show with my jewelry, and these people didn't even know Savion was under the table. They saw Savannah, but they were like, and he'd be so quiet because he's sleeping, you know what I mean? So you can't have people all over your baby, and let them touch the feet. I don't know, touch that baby's face.
That's right. I always say, touch the baby's feet. I love baby's feet, but don't put your hands in my baby's face. Yeah, we gonna fight. I just think, as I said, as Mother's Day is approaching, and technically, and we all know this, as a mother, every day is Mother's Day. Because there is no time that you are never a mother. Whether even when your children are grown, and they've moved away. They could live across the country. Something happens to your child, you know it's something is going on before your child or someone calls you, because you get that innate, that thing that wakes you up in the middle, or you sitting there talking
you
all
know,
of a
I got a
sudden,
child that lives across the country too. You
and
know,
then
I got
and
one
then
lives across.
and then you feel this thing and you go, wait, something's not right. Right? That mother instinct. So I just think we just got to learn how to have some grace, right? Be proud of your motherhood, your mothership, right? Because you are a mother.
You're proud of that blessing. That's a
And
blessing.
yes, it's a
That
blessing.
God gave
And
you
be
that baby. That's a
grateful,
blessing.
and be grateful for your own mother. Even if
Yes.
the
Oh, absolutely.
relationship wasn't what you expected or thought it should have been, guess what? This is your chance in life to turn that around, to change that now.
Exactly. Right. That's right.
Don't be, if your mother wasn't all that you thought your mother should have been,
Then
well,
you should be that mother.
so be that mother that you thought your mother should have been. Do better.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't think
That's
you're
right.
better, just do better than your mother.
Exactly.
Don't
Exactly.
degrade your mother, don't put her, don't slander her, don't, just be better. And then also love her and forgive her and nurture her too, if she's still here.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right? I think sometimes we carry around all these burdens as mothers that we don't even understand. I think we carry so much what we feel a sense of responsibility as mothers that sometimes we get so weighed down, and then we are mad at ourselves and we're mad at others, because then we feel we're not seen and we feel we're not heard. So,
And we're overwhelmed.
and that's the biggest part. We're overwhelmed.
Yeah, that overwhelming feeling is not a good feeling at
It's
all.
not, you're trying to juggle, you're juggling everything, and yet everything is falling at the same time, and you're still trying to catch it and get it back in the air.
Exactly.
Listen, I want you this Mother's Day, and if you don't get to do it this Mother's Day, because if you have to work or you're doing something with your own mom or your grandmothers or the mothers in your life, please make sure you take some time out this weekend or next week to nurture your mother self. Take time out to love on yourself.
Definitely love on yourself.
Yeah,
You don't
take
love on
time to
yourself, you
enjoy
don't have
yourself.
any energy to be able to love on somebody else. You have to take care of self to be able to have
It's
the
so
energy to do all
important,
the things that you need to
right?
do. Yeah.
Because you cannot
So
pour,
important.
you cannot
Pour
pour
from an empty
into
cup.
someone else from an empty vessel, right? You just
Exactly.
can't. If you don't have
Exactly.
anything, if you empty and you don't have anything to pour, then you just pouring air. So
Exactly.
you're not getting anything out of it, and neither are the people who you're trying to pour into. So take some
So true.
time this weekend to do some reflection, to think about it. Go have a massage. Listen, get them kids and those significant others and say, hey, this is what I would like for Mother's Day, right? I don't want to go out to a restaurant, but this is what I want. This is my favorite breakfast. This is what I would like. You all make it for me, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And don't get mad at your significant other or your children if they don't bring you the gift that you thought you were supposed to get.
Yeah, it's not about that.
It's not about that. Enjoy the moment of the fact that I always say, I think back to the point when I became a mother. And to me, greatest joy of my life, right? Like I can look at pictures of my children and I go, wow, right? Like that happened, right?
Yeah. It's so fascinating to me.
You're right. It's still fascinating to me. And
It's
then,
so
and then when
fascinating.
you
My baby
see
came
them,
home on Tuesday. I see
right,
this 6'2" big old
right.
guy. I'm like, what happened? You gonna be 21? Like, really? What happened?
It changes your whole perspective,
It
right?
does.
I
It
mean,
does.
I'm just saying, enjoy your Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Again, if you are without your mother, maybe consider spending a day with someone else's mother.
Yeah.
Love on someone else's mother who may need some mothering or some loving upon, right? And if you choose not to do that, but just do something good for yourself. Do
Exactly.
something that would bring you some joy, some peace, some space, and remember to breathe.
Yeah.
Because I
Oh,
think
definitely.
most of the time we're all running around, we're not breathing. We're like, we take a breath And then we keep running. And then we go, oh, breathe. I'm talking to me. Because there are many days I go, girl, breathe. I'm not breathing. Breathe. Breathe.
It's true.
So I hope that you all enjoy your Mother's Day. I hope that your family, your friends, your children, your loved ones, your husbands, your wives will take care of you. So
Absolutely.
we love you.
Absolutely.
Steph, your final words?
Enjoy. And remember, I mean, it's one day at a time. Put one foot in front of the other. It's just one day at a time. A day, make today better than yesterday. You know,
Yes.
tomorrow's still a mystery. Whatever comes, and make that day better too.
Yes.
And be present. That's one thing I can tell you is be present.
Ooh,
Because it seems like when you have that baby, you just came home. If you just came home from the hospital, you have a brand new baby. It seems like, oh my God, this is gonna be forever. It really does go by quickly.
it
I
does.
yeah, like when you're in it, you don't believe that, but you will realize 20 years from now, like, how did that happen? Because
Yeah.
that's what I see. I couldn't believe it, how fast
Yes.
those times go. And then they say, those people who want to date and all this kind of stuff, whatever your situation is, they're going to be grown faster than you can imagine.
Absolutely.
Because you
Absolutely.
have a life for yourself. Or let them get five so they can be verbal. Oh, this person said this to me, whatever. Let them be
Right.
older to tell
Or
you
your
what's
kids
good.
go, I don't like him.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
And,
don't
and
like
believe
him.
what they say.
And
Okay.
believe
Yeah.
them. Don't
Yeah.
get
Believe
mad
it.
at them. Trust what they tell you.
Because
I don't like him.
their energy is raw. They don't know how to be deceptive yet. They don't know all
Exactly.
those things
Right.
really. So
It's
they're coming
pure
from an
and
honest place.
authentic.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
They're like, if your child tells you, I don't like them,
You better listen. I'm
listen.
telling you, a lot of people don't listen, but you better listen, honey. If they tell you they don't like them, you better take heed to that.
Yes.
Exactly. That's very important.
Well, shout out to all the moms who, what you
Yes.
won't do for love in the name of
That's right.
motherhood. We want to bless you all and say, have a wonderful Mother's Day. Enjoy yourself. Take care of yourself and have a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. We love you. Be blessed. Love
Bye,
you,
honey bunny.
everybody.
Have a
Happy
happy
Mother's
Mother's Day.
Day. Happy Mother's Day. I love you. Enjoy.